Please review the services.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin our services, if we can please kindly turn off all cell phones or electronic devices, or please place them on silent. Thank you.
Ma'ayan HaChayim, wellspring of life. We come together this morning commemorating Karen's life. We've come together sharing sorrow to commemorate her life and to acknowledge all that was good and the blessings of her life. We thank God for the precious memories which shall endure. Eternal God, her family and friends are bowed in grief, who seek light to dispel the dark gloom that threatens to overwhelm them. Be gracious to those who mourn, for they are in distress. Bless them with your compassion. Ease their burden of sorrow, and send them light and peace. For it is written, fear not, as it is written, as I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will sustain you with my power. And let us all say, Amen. Some of you may have noticed that just before we started this public ceremony, we had a private moment on the front row. And we cut the ribbons for husband Bobby, for sons Howard and Mark. And you see that Howard and Mark are wearing the ribbons on their left-hand side, as is the tradition, acknowledging the death of a parent, and Bobby is wearing it on his right-hand side for his spouse. These are traditional symbols that last through the eons, thousands of years of tradition that inform us to this very day. But when you see them up close, you'll see that the ribbons are not cut all the way across. Because as they are cut emotionally, psychologically, there are still the threads of life, the threads of connectedness that are at the top of the ribbon. They represent all the years of life and happiness and joy that they shared with one another. They are the traditional symbols that are worn. However, because this evening begins the holy day of Sukkot, the amount of time that they wear them will be abbreviated so that we enter this holiday free of the full restrictions of mourning. I read on Karen's behalf Psalm 23, an excerpt in Hebrew and an English interpretation. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echsar, b'nodesha yad bitzeni, Al mei menuchot yenachaleni. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He has me lie down in green pastures and leads me beside the still waters. God guides me on paths of righteousness and revives my soul for the sake of God's glory. Though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you are with me. Your staff and your rod do comfort me. You set the table in sight of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall abide in the house of the Lord forever. I also want to acknowledge that Karen and Bobby have two grandsons, Jace and Evan, who are not here with us physically, certainly connecting emotionally and spiritually. And my hope is that through the years, you will bring them to the graveside. You will bring them stories, anecdotes about her life and all that they meant to her, so that as they grow and mature, they will understand their role in the continuing generations. I've chosen a text to read that sadly I've read many times for members of my congregation, right here from this very podium. In fact, even for my own parents. And it was written several thousand years ago by a rabbi and scholar named Ben Sirach, who valued life and its conclusion. Valued the strength of life and also when the strength of life ends. I read his words in translation. He wrote, "We are all destined to die. We share with all who ever lived, with all who ever will be. Cry for the dead. Hide not your grief. Do not restrain your mourning. But remember that continuing sorrow is worse than death. When the dead are at rest, let their memory be a source of peace, and be consoled when the soul departs. Death is better than a life of pain," he wrote, "and eternal rest is better than lingering illness. As a drop of water in the sea, as a grain of sand on the shore, are our few days of eternity. The good things in life last for a short time, but a good reputation, a good name, endures forever." In a moment, you'll be hearing from Bobby, you'll be hearing from Howard, you'll hearing from Mark. But I wanted to share some of my response to having had an extensive conversation with Bobby. He was so exuberant, despite his own sadness, describing the relationship that he and Karen had. The love that he knew, he told me, was the closest that a husband and wife could have. What a role model. What an example to set by even saying and experiencing and sharing those thoughts. But he also let me know, without using those words, how committed and dedicated a husband he is. Also setting an example for the rest of us. He also told me that at a healthier time, Karen loved to dance, loved to go down to the casino. And they would see many shows together. And they would spend their time together. You don't hear that a lot anymore. But they really invested their time in each other's lives. I want to share an article that Bobby spoke to me about and that I was able to find online from Deborah Hospital. I didn't know that it was my congregant Ellen Virginia who was going to be here representing Deborah. In fact, it's her newsletter. And she arranged for the photographer who took such a lovely picture. If you haven't seen that newsletter or that happy, glowing picture of the two of them, I highly recommend it. It was a delight. And it made it even more memorable for me to see that picture before coming here to officiate. Let me share the article from the Deborah newsletter. Karen and Bob Brown were active parents. Never missed an opportunity to cheer on their athletic son, Howard. Always pushing himself and excelling in many sports, including basketball, football, and track and field. His speed on the football field earned him the nickname Downtown Howard Brown. He also medaled in the long jump and hurdles and broke the high jump record as a member of the South Jersey delegation of the JCC Maccabi Games, a teen athletic competition often called the Jewish Olympics. His abilities and drive were a great source of pride for his mother and father. But then, 8 years ago, from the time of the article, Karen and Bob faced the grim reality that their then 29-year-old son might not live long enough to become a father himself. The news came following a routine annual exam where an echocardiogram detected significant heart valve disease. At the time, Howard was between jobs with limited medical insurance. Although there were multiple cardiologists nearby his home in Voorhees, New Jersey, no appointments were available for weeks or months. Fortunately, Bob remembered advertisements for Deborah Heart and Lung Center, and within days, Howard was scheduled for exams and tests at Deborah, revealing the urgent need for mitral valve surgery. Lynn McGrath, MD, the cardiac surgeon, informed the family that he would try to repair Howard's valve, but there was a strong possibility it would need to be replaced. With limited insurance and personal resources, Howard was concerned of the considerable cost of the procedure and the mountain of debt he would be saddled with. To the relief of all, the valve repair was a success, providing Howard with many years of good health since then. As those nagging worries about the bills, Howard soon discovered that the Deborah Heart and Lung Center has a 100-year tradition of not balanced billing its patients. Therefore, Howard never received a bill from Deborah. Better news yet. Just 3 short years after his surgery, Howard became a father of a 7-pound, 8-ounce son, Jace. Not only grateful to have their son, but now a grandson, Bob and Karen decided to include the Deborah Hospital Foundation in their estate plans with a gift designated in their wills. Knowing their future gift will help other Deborah patients in need, just like a past donor's gift helped Howard, provides them pure joy. Bob added, "Shooting hoops with my son and grandson isn't too bad either." And the family has warmly requested that any memorial donations that are offered in Karen's memory please be sent to Deborah as well. We're going to hear now some personal thoughts. I'm honored to invite Bobby to the Bima first.
Rabbi Gantz told you some wonderful things about Karen. And later, Howard and Mark will speak about what their mom meant to them. What I would like to do is tell you how our love started and why we had a fabulous marriage for over 40 years. It's going to be hard for me to talk when I'm crying, but I will try to do my best. Karen asked me not to say anything embarrassing at her eulogy, but I told her that I could not promise her that. Sorry, honey. In December of 1979, my fraternity brother Paul and I went to visit a friend who also was a Fairleigh Dickinson alumni, who just got herself a new apartment. Paul and I went all out on a housewarming gift, a frozen Pepperidge Farm layer cake, probably from ShopRite. While waiting for the cake to defrost, the doorbell rang. When the door opened, I saw the most beautiful woman I ever seen. Long blonde hair, beautiful eyes, and a perfect smile. Oh, and a very low-cut blouse. Sorry, sweetheart, I had to tell the truth. I fell in love with her that moment. We went out next week and realized how much we had in common. We both went to Fairleigh Dickinson, both loved the same music, 50s and 60s. Both loved to dance and liked the same type of food. By Valentine's Day, we knew we wanted to get married. Typical of Karen's thoughtfulness, she got us tickets to see Grease on Broadway, her knowing how much I loved 50s and 60s music. We got married on June 14, 1981, Flag Day. In 1984, our first son, Howard, was born. Karen was so sure she was going to have a girl, even had the name Heather picked out. When I held Howard in my arms and I told her, honey, he's so cute, Karen, command anesthesia, said, he? I said, yes. I then put him in her arms and she had the biggest, happiest smile on her face. She fell in love with him right then and never stopped loving him her whole life. In 1990, Mark was born. And just like Howard, loved him every day of her life. Karen was different than many soccer moms. While many just drop off their children, she stayed and watched them play and cheer them on. Whether it was basketball, football, soccer, baseball, track, or wrestling. She stayed half a day at a wrestling match to see Mark get first place in the 42-pound tot division. She was so proud of him, but even more to see him so happy. She was equally proud and happy for Howard when he came home from the 2000 Junior Maccabi Games in Cincinnati with many medals, including a gold medal for breaking the Junior Maccabi high jump record. Karen loved to have fun. We saw hundreds of shows and concerts together. Diana Ross, the Beach Boys, Janet Jackson, Frankie Valli, just to name a few of her favorites. Karen spent endless hours searching for the perfect college for Mark, and she found it in Lafayette. Not only did Mark excel in college, he met his beautiful wife, Nicole, who Karen felt she finally got a daughter, and a wonderful one at that. Nicole is a nurse practitioner who helped Karen over the phone with medical questions many times, and Karen really appreciated that. Karen always wanted everyone to be happy. No one could love anybody more than we did to each other. Karen always made sure that special events were done right, whether it was her son's bar mitzvahs or for a fantastic honeymoon to Hawaii and Las Vegas. She made me a surprise 40th birthday party at a restaurant that was doing a live show that night with the DJ from the oldies radio station WOGL. She made sure I had oldies music and a large dance floor to enjoy my 40th birthday. It was terrific, and of course, loving and very thoughtful of Karen. We always wanted to spend time together. We were the type of husband and wife that would go out with our friends and leave the other one home alone. She had friends, we asked her to go out, she said, no, I'd rather be with my husband. And we did that for 40 years, always wanted to be together. When we did go out, we went out with friends or with our children, and we did everything as a couple. Karen, thanks for making me the happy hubby all these years. Miss you, sweetheart. I will always love you forever.
Here's your pass. Now I'm honored to call on Howard to come forward.
This is really hard for me to talk today. Normally I don't have a problem talking, because you know that probably. I like to talk. It's hard for me to prepare a speech. I don't really prepare for things like that, which is something my mom always tried to encourage and put into me. Writing note cards, but I like to do things straight from the heart. Still. My mom would have been felt heartwarmed and loved, and all of you that showed up today. You know, I've had an impact on her life one way or another, if you knew her or not. You know, a lot of great friends of her kids and her husband are here that she's never met. But showing that love, she loved every single one of you because she loved us so much. So thank you everyone for coming today too. It means a lot to my dad, my brother, and me. I can't believe my mom is gone. I never felt like something like that could ever really happen. Even though I know she has been in pain and discomfort for a long time. You know, she wouldn't really go and tell the extensiveness of it to all of us, because she didn't want us to get upset and worry about her as much as she always worried about us with everything, over excessively, probably. Like a very caring mother. she cared a lot about us. I know that, and I cared a lot about her. We had a very special bond and connection that I always intuitively knew, if something was going on, good or bad, with her without even saying it, just from texts or calls, and she knew that with me too. Not too many people, even all my close friends, and kind of like understood me like my mom did that way. And that was special. She did a lot of special things for us all, for each and every one of you here too, I know. Maybe sometimes it was hard for her to show, her feelings of how she felt, but she was one of the most loving people I've ever met in my entire life, and caring people I've ever met in my entire life, with a heart of just gold and driven to do things the right way. She had her, perspective and views of what was right and what was wrong in the world, and she knew, and she followed by what she thought was right. It's going to be really hard going on without her here. I called her almost every day and spoke to her almost every single day. And hearing her voice was always very comforting to me. And I could tell her and talk to her about anything. And she was so special to me. And this has been hard. This has been very hard lately. For a while, it's been hard with how she's been doing. But I also am a very spiritual person and try to really look at the other side of things too. It's hard to stay strong all the time, but I know that in the reality of things, my mom was in some pain and discomfort for a while, but she didn't let everyone know the extensiveness of it. But I now know she's at peace and rest with my Grandpa Stan, her father, her mother, her brother, and her aunt, Aunt Joan, Uncle Kevin, Grandpa Harry. I know you're all there taking care of her, and my mom's taking care of him, and she's watching down on all of us, and I just want to make her proud and do good by her and things that she wanted. And I know she's looking down on her grandsons too, and I know she's in a better place now, and she's not in any more pain. My feelings and thoughts are all over the place, and I'm sorry if I'm, just blurting things out. But it's been really hard processing all this, and emotions are all over the place. Thank you, everyone, again, for being here. It truly means everything to all of us, my brother, me, my dad, and my mother as well. I know that. Thank you.
As Mark is coming up, I'm motivated to share from the book of Proverbs. A woman of valor who can find? She is more precious than fine pearls. Her family trusts in her, and so they lack nothing. She does them good, never harm, all the days of her life. Now, Mark.
Thank you all for coming today to mourn the death and also celebrate the life of my mother, Karen Brown. Whether she knew you personally or just from stories from myself or my brother or my father, you all meant a lot to her. So I didn't write anything to prepare for this. I couldn't bring myself to do it, but it got me to thinking back of when I was in school and we would use to do these presentations in front of the class. And I would write things on note cards, or that's how most people did it, but my mom recognized that I had a really good memory, and so she made me memorize all my presentations so I could, instead of be looking down at cards, be looking at the audience. So I think it's kind of fitting to do that today in that spirit. She had a way of pushing me and pushing everyone that she cared about to do better and live up to their full potential. So, a little more about her, to talk about some of the things outside of family life and what she did and what she offered to people outside her family. She used to work as in marketing research for several years. And in later years, even after she stopped working there to focus more on being a mother, she temporarily went back to work a few times. And I guess you could say that she was someone who believed in being civically engaged, because she went back to work. She did something in Voorhees, working for Welcome Wagon, to welcome people who moved to the town and get them acclimated. And then later on, she volunteered herself to be a field coordinator for the 2000 census. So she cared about being civically engaged in community and things like that. And, and she was a very loving mother, very loving wife. I know how much she loved my father and cared about him and really thought the world of him. And you could see that went both ways, and they did everything together. They were a real team. And she was always so proud of my brother and me. Whenever we had any kind of sporting competitions, she was there, and she invested the time to be there with us. And I know as a mother too, she was great at planning parties, and we used to do all these great holiday dinners with families and friends, and she really went all out and really dedicated herself to make sure that my brother and me had the best bar mitzvahs possible. She really labored and really put a lot of time and effort into those things, which they're great memories, and they're a moment in time, but the most important thing that she would do for me was to make sure that I kept myself applied in school, kept myself on the right track. And even if sometimes I didn't want to, but she knew that I could be successful. And that's the most important thing for any parent. I think that it's not something that needs to be taught. You just instinctually have it when your children are born. It's just something that's embedded within us, that you want to see them succeed, you want to see them thrive, you want to see your bloodline continue and prosper. So she knew that if I put in the hard work, that I could go to a great college like Lafayette, I could get a great job, and then I could, meet a wonderful wife like Nicole and have a wonderful son like Evan, who, we didn't get to see her that often over the past 16 months, but when we did, it was a really great time and really great memories to cherish. So I think she's at peace knowing that she has Evan and she has Jace for her bloodline to continue and prosper. And I think she's also at peace with being reunited with the rest of her family. I think when her mother passed away before I was born, I don't know if she ever truly got over that. She always had a little bit of sorrow in her heart every day. And then over, 5 or 6 years ago, her brother passed away, and 3 years ago, her father passed away. And pretty soon, in a few hours, they'll all be reunited again. And I think there's probably something good going on there right now with her and Aunt Joan and everyone else in the family. And as for the rest of us still here on earth, we just have to do the best to honor her memory and live life to the fullest. And we will love her, we will miss her always, and I just want her to rest in peace, pain-free forever. Thank you again for coming, and this means a lot to all of us, and it means a lot to her as well.
In a moment, I'm going to read the concluding prayer here in the chapel. It's known as El Malei Rachamim, God, the compassionate one. Even in moments of sadness, return to God for strength. It will be using her Hebrew name. During the course of our conversation, I asked Bob if he could find his ketubah from when he and Karen were married. He did. Sent me a text with all the pictures, and I looked at it, and I immediately said, wow, this is exquisitely well-written Hebrew. I mentioned to my wife, I mentioned to you in text, and only later did I look at the English side and realize why the Hebrew was so well-written. It was produced by my colleague and mentor, Rabbi Albert Lewis, who officiated at your wedding, who has stood here at this podium performing other funerals. He and I often would co-officiate together. I was at his funeral. He had an important part in my life as well as in yours. So I'm honored to perpetuate his good work in your ketubah while also saying this prayer on behalf of Karen. I ask everyone now to please stand. El Malei Rachamim, Shochem B'Amromim, Hamtzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei HaShechina, B'Ma'alot Kedoshim HaToharim, Kezohar Rakia Mazirim, Et Nishmat Chaya Bat Tzvi Hersh, Shalcha Le'olama, B'Gan Eden Tehei Menuchata, Ana Ba'ah Rachamim, Hasdirecha B'Seter Knapecha Le'olamim, Uzror b'tzror chayim et nishmata, Adonai hu nachalata, v'tanuach b'shalom ha'mishkova, v'nomar, Amen. O God, exalted and full of compassion, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to Karen Brown, Chaya, the daughter of Tzvi Hirsch, who has gone to her eternal home. Master of mercy, we beseech you, remember all the worthy and righteous deeds that she performed in the land of the living. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. The Lord is her portion. May she rest in the tranquility of shalom, of peace, completeness. And let us say, Amen. Please be seated. The interment will take place at the Wellwood Cemetery, alongside her parents, her brother, and other members of the family in New York following the conclusion of this ceremony.
Will the pallbearers please step to the center aisle? I'm going to ask if we can rise once more, please.
Adonai miyagur b'halecha miyishkon bahar banshacha holech tamim b'foel tzedek b'dover emet lavot lo ragal al shono lo asal re'ehu ra'a v'cherpa lo nasa al krovo nivzeh b'einav nim'as v'et yirei Adonai yichabed nishmal harav lo yamir כספו לא נתן בנשך, ושוחד ענקי לא לקח, עושה אלף לא ימות לעולם.
You may be seated, please.